Good morning. So for the Unit 2 Day 3 notes, I want you guys to just do this as a warm-up so that you can just practice for your quiz. Today we're going to go over, just do more of the unit circle. Let's talk about when we have negative angles. Sine of negative theta is equal to negative sine of theta. And we know from Unit 1 that this is an odd function. Okay? Cosine of negative theta is just cosine of theta. Because remember, if we have like negative pi over 3, that's about right here. Negative pi over 3 means we're going to go clockwise. And remember, in this quadrant, cosine, our x values, are positive. So my sine is not going to change. And remember, this means that it is an even function. Tangent at negative theta is, well, that's negative sine of theta over cosine of theta. And since this function went from positive to negative, this is also an odd function. Okay, so negative sine over cosine, I'm just going to put this in as negative tangent. Okay. Right here, like as I said, cosine is positive, but sine is negative. Just wanted to write that ordered pair for you. Alrighty, so let's go down here. It says sine of negative pi over 6. What this means is we're going to go in the opposite direction. Instead of positive pi over 6, which is 30 degrees, we're going to go negative pi over 6. I know at pi over 6, I mean, you're going to have to know your triangles. That is 30 degrees. 30 is 1, 2, square root of 3. My smallest number is opposite my smallest angle, so that does matter. And sine at 30 degrees is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 1/2. But at negative pi over 6, we're going this way. Sine in this fourth quadrant is negative. So this is going to be negative 1/2. All right, guys, sorry, my tablet died. So let's do number 4, example 4. You guys can try the other two. It says secant at negative 5 pi over 6. Well, you know that secant is the reciprocal of cosine. And cosine is an even function. So this is just going to be, secant is also going to be an even function, and it's going to be the same as secant at positive 5 pi over 6. They will be the same. Okay. And secant is the same as 1 over cosine at 5 pi over 6. So you know that pi over 6, you know what the cosine, the value of cosine is at 5 pi over 6. So I'll just kind of write it right here. Pi over 6 is 30 degrees, so that's 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6. So it's going to be purple. Okay. And at 30 degrees, my ratio for cosine, my x value, is the square root of 3 divided by 2. Okay, this is my 5 pi over 6. And I know this because of my special rate triangles. For the 30, this is 30 degrees that we're talking about. So for the 30, 60, 90, it's 1, 2, square root of 3. Remember, your smallest number is opposite your smallest angle. And so your medium number will be opposite your medium angle. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So square root of 3 over 2. Okay? So it's going to be 1 over, and in this quadrant, my cosine is negative. So 1 over negative square root of 3 over 2. Please don't put the negative in the denominator. You can pull it out to the side or put it in the numerator. Those are the same things. Remember when we're dividing a fraction, that's the same as 1 divided by the square root of 3 over 2, right? When we divide a fraction, we're going to multiply by their reciprocal. So 2 over the square root of 3. And it's still negative. Put the negative out in front. All right, 1 times anything is itself. So you know that this is 2 over the square root of 3. Sorry, this is still negative. But we cannot have a square root in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by the square root of 3 and the numerator by the square root of 3. Negative 2 times the square root of 3 is negative 2 square root of 3. And then the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. I could divide these. If I can simplify them, always try to divide them. So secant at negative 5 pi over 6 is negative 2 square root of 3 divided by 3. Alrighty. What happens if we have an angle more than 2 pi? So consider what happens when we try to evaluate sine at 3 pi. So sine is our y values at 3 pi. So I'm going to go around the unit circle. Sorry guys, it was the bell. Okay, so we're going to go around the unit circle. And this is 2 pi. This is 2 pi. We want to go to 3 pi. Well, 2 pi plus pi is 3 pi. So I'm going to keep going around the unit circle. This is 3 pi. Okay. And where is this location, though? In radians, this is the same as pi, right? Remember, this is pi over 2. This is 0. This is 3 pi over 2. Okay. So sine of theta plus 2 pi is going to be whatever theta is. So sine at theta. So theta could be a degrees or radians. Cosine of theta plus 2 pi is whatever cosine of theta is. So what we can do is we can subtract 2 pi. That's essentially what we're doing. Subtract multiples of 2 pi until we get under 2 pi. So we have sine of 3 pi. Well, let's subtract 2 pi from it. Oops, sorry. That's a horrible pi. Okay, this is sine. 3 pi minus 2 pi is sine of pi. And this is going to be our reference radian. We already did tangent. They did tangent for us. So this one said, what is cotangent of 11 pi over 4? Well, I need my denominators to be equal, and we're going to subtract 2 pi. Well, to have a common denominator for pi over 4, we have 11 pi over 4 minus 2 pi. But I cannot subtract a whole number from a fraction. They have to have a common denominators. So 2 pi, what I have to do is multiply the numerator and the denominator by 4. And this would give me 8 pi over 4. 11 minus 8, this is going to be the same as cotangent at 3 pi over 4. And this is under 2 pi, so this will be our reference angle. You guys can try sine. All right, this is just practice. So I want you guys to try a couple, and then you guys can take your quiz today. Have a great day, guys.